Hey, what's going on there, guys? Good afternoon. Well, good morning. Still here along the West Coast. It is the Earthmaster here on this Thursday, 4/20, 2023. It's 11:24 a.m. here along the West Coast in California. Latest quake shows looks like a two-pointer here along the West Coast, somewhere in that mix of earthquakes. 2.1 in the green flag. The latest quake on the map. Let's go ahead and check out some space weather activity here first. As I want to show you guys this image here of this beautiful Prominence eruption on the northern section here, northern hemisphere of the sun, possibly producing, of course, a CME. It looks like that did blast off, shooting out some plasma into space. Beautiful feature. Sometimes they do happen. This one here is directed, obviously, away from Earth, from the Earth-Sun plane, but beautiful nonetheless. I wanted to kind of show that image with you guys there before it disappeared off of the solar ham site. The most recent image here shows a little bit of stabilization up here from that beautiful Prominence eruption earlier. And we're left with quite a few sunspots here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. But again, we've been watching these sunspots progress here across the disk of the sun, visible disk, and they've just degraded completely. This sunspot up here looks like it may be starting to get its act together once again, but even so, with that, it doesn't look like it's going to be a threat for any major flares. But we're left with all these sunspots here, currently not wanting to do too much here on the magnetic structure of that image. 99% chance for a C flare. C flares are not that big of a deal. M flare 35% chance, X flare at 1% chance. And a look at the last 3 days of solar flare activity shows a little bit of C flare movement, or activity, I should say, on the sun. But overall, nothing major to look at there on the solar flare index. Let's see, aurora forecast, very minimal. Not a whole lot going on there across the higher and lower latitudes. Not looking at much at all, folks. So, all right, let's move on to earthquake activity here. Looking at the west coast, there's that latest earthquake near Salinas, a 2.1. Very shallow earthquake, 0 kilometers. Of course, we did have some activity yesterday kicking up here in the Bay region near the Brentwood area. They did see a 3.7, which was felt pretty broadly over the San Francisco Bay, even some folks reporting that in the Sacramento area. Looks like overnight, nothing going on there. So we had a 3.7 and a couple other smaller earthquakes. Rest of Northern California, fairly quiet. Looks like they did add some activity here to the map, including a 2.6 from yesterday. So this earthquake was not there yesterday out in the middle of the Gorda Plate. Sometimes it takes them a little minute or two. Couple days to add the data onto the graph. Same with this one up here. I know the Earthquakes Canada site was reporting this earthquake last night during our update, but USGS was skipping out on it. Either way, there was a 4.3 here into the northern end, just shy of the Cascadia subduction zone. And of course, we do have quite a bit of tremor activity occurring down dip here of the Cascadia in the northern section, and also down here in the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Let me show you guys activity here from yesterday, 419, not quite 420 there. Activity on the southern end, and of course on the northern end. This is all tremor activity, and that will add stress and strain offshore in that those fracture boundaries out there in the Explorer Plate, the Gorda Plate, and the Juan de Fuca Plate as a whole. So I expect that to continue. And as always, I think during any elevated tremor event, there's always that possibility of the Cascadia producing a mega quake. Now, this all kind of popped up here on, let's go back to the month. Looks like around the 4th of April. We've been slowly elevating here. Today, I wouldn't doubt it if we top out somewhere maybe in the 800 range for epicenters. That's just the way these typical tremor events happen. So looking at the last, the duration of this tremor event, we got 6,707 epicenters of tremor. And as you can see there on the map, mostly positioned here at the northern end of the Cascadia. That would include areas Seattle, northward into the Vancouver Island ranges, and also a little bit down here into the southern Oregon. That would explain some of the earthquake activity we've seen here periodically over the last 7 days, including this one in the Gorda Plate. Let me show you guys the last 7 days of earthquake activity. We see a little swarming down here at the extreme southern end. Notice this earthquake activity down there, but not quite down there into the subduction zone where the tremor takes place. Tremor takes place between 35 and 45 kilometers deep, much further east here on the map on the right side of the screen. This activity occurring upstream and shallower well, you can see the depth there, anywhere from 8 down to about 26 kilometers deep. Even though that 26 is deep somewhat, it's still above the tremor area, and that's indicative there on the map from the movement here that we're seeing in Northern California, adding strain up here along the Cascadia. And, like I said, occasionally we get these little earthquakes. One of these times, I think the big event will be triggered from a tremor event in the future. Who knows when that will be, but, it's just a matter of time. Got to be prepared, right? So 6,700 epicenters since the 4th of April. We're on our way up to matching previous tremor events there. It's been a little while, but it looks like there is some regular intervals there and whatnot of tremor activity over the past, well, as you can see here, since about 2010. But as I've mentioned here in past videos, it looks as though the tremor intervals have been getting much shorter and the events getting much closer together, which could indicate, you never know, could be pointing towards something as far as an earthquake happening on the Cascadia. But we'll continue to watch it, continue to monitor it. It's something new as far as tremor activity goes, not volcanic, but this is a vibrational frequency slow slip events downstream into the subduction zone. All right, let's see what else we have here overnight into the Washington area. Noticing a little bit of activity up here as well in the Puget Sound area. 2.3. 29 kilometers deep there. Northwest of Seattle, a little activity up here in the Devil's Mountain Fault. I think that's Devil's Mountain Fault. Yes, Devil's Mountain Fault. 1.1, 8 kilometers deep. A little activity around the Mount Rainier area as well. While we're on that, let's go check out the Mount Rainier seismograph stations here. See what we have. A little activity scattered out and about here over the last couple weeks, it looks like. Mostly small microquake movement. But we'll check out the St. Andrews Rock area, Mount Rainier, Washington. The recorded seismograph here. Hopefully it works. Yes, it does. Over the last 24 hours, a little small activity is what we're seeing right there. This, some type of, I don't know what, maybe instrument adjustment, antenna adjustment, something making some type of environmental noise. But the earthquake activity, what we're going to look for is this more so than that. This is definitely not earthquake activity or anything to do with the volcano, except for some type of interference, man-made or machinery-made. All right, looking up into the goodness, what's going on up here? Scattered area of a lot of earthquake activity up into Idaho, Montana, Yellowstone. See what we got here. 2.1 coming in yesterday. Let's take a look at the Yellowstone overview. I haven't even looked at it yet today, but we will. And let's see, not a whole lot of local seismic activity. Trying to see here if this is movement around the borehole or not. Sometimes the wind events will make some type of signature up there similar to that. But it's hard to say because some of that activity is showing up across the Little West Thumb area as well. Very small microquake activity. And I'm not really seeing any major swarm activity at all. But looking at the USGS map, definitely a noticeable uptick here on a broad scale, stretching across western Montana and the Idaho area. All right. Let's see what we got here. 2.5, Wisdom, Montana. Earlier this morning, about 2 o'clock or so, into the Pioneer Mountains outside of Butte, Montana. Beautiful area. All right, looking across, we kind of skipped Southern Cal, so let's go back here. That was kind of a half circle. So we'll scoot back here and look at Southern California And technically, there's not a whole lot showing up here across the area in the last hour. Some small earthquakes around the San Jacinto fault zone. Nothing going on across the San Andreas fault for now. Most of the movement has definitely been around the Bay Area northward. All right, Oklahoma, Texas area. Goodness. Seen about 9 reports of tornadoes in Oklahoma last night. Wow. Some scary sights there. Did some damage as well. And unfortunately, a few people got hurt, I heard. Not good. But it is that time of year, and you guys got to be super weather aware of what's going on out there. Some threes. Well, this one was from yesterday outside of Pecos, Texas. 3.4. Aside from that, all this movement here across the plains, southern plains, and western Texas. Older activity. All right, across the Caribbean plate, not a whole lot going on there. According to the USGS, there's a 3.8 here around the Dominican Republic. Not showing up here. Sometimes the USGS will report that earthquake activity, but it doesn't look like they got to it yet. But a little small movement around Puerto Rico and off into the Cocos plate and the Nazca plate here. The plate boundary between those two got a little swarm of activity. I'm trying to see here. It looks like that may be in a little fracture area. Divergent boundary. 5.4, the latest activity. Either way, there was about 3 earthquakes in a short amount of time out here off the coast of the Columbia area. See what we got. USGS reporting, yeah, definitely reporting it up there on the map and also on the globe here from the EMSC. We haven't really noticed any adjustments following that activity, but most of the time when we do see movement offshore into those plate boundaries, things tend to pick up over here along the, well, in this case it would be the Columbian Trench, almost due east here. We'll watch that region. South America area. One lonesome earthquake being reported, a 4.3, but there's a little bit more activity. Looks like some 2s and another earthquake there north of, looks like around the Santiago area. All right, let's see, moving on here. Not a whole lot going on across Hawaii, but this has been kind of a hot spot of activity here in the microquake department. Nothing large scale going on yet, but around the Kilauea volcano, getting quite a bit of earthquake activity here over the last 7 days. We're looking at 121 earthquakes, and the depth of these earthquakes are all consistent with some magma movement. I don't believe we got any other updates here from the volcano hazard sites, but I do like to check them. Kilauea is still at a yellow hazard notification system. The last update on Kilauea volcano was put out on the 18th. They did mention slightly about the earthquake swarm, but nothing, as far as what they think is causing it. But there was some recorded inflation, right? That's swelling, so to speak, of the summit tilt meter. I believe that's firmly either some type of gas activity, volcanic gas, or indeed magma on the move, possibly recharging the system down there below Kilauea volcano. Continue to watch that as well. For now, quite a few earthquakes there. Let's see what else we got up into the Alaska area. Mostly smaller microquakes across the region here. I'm not seeing any major uptick. Very typical across that area of the subduction zone. 5.1 here into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench from yesterday. Not really seeing anything new popping off here on the globe, at least for that area. Japan southwest towards Taiwan, a couple smaller quakes down here along the northwestern edge of the Philippine plate near the East China Sea. Around the Java Trench regions, not a whole lot going on according to the USGS, and still just minimal activity across the area today. It looks like some 2s and 3s scattered about there. Our seismically gapped zone here, of course, we definitely seen some earthquake activity out here around Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, and the Fiji area over the last week. Here's the last 7 days, 4.5 and above. Of course, we had that 6.3 coming in early yesterday morning around the Papua New Guinea area. Java Trench over here did see some larger scale movement as well with that 7-pointer. And of course, we had a 6.7 a couple days ago into the Tonga Trench. A couple areas I'm still watching here, considering we haven't really seen a whole lot of movement, is obviously the Crokamchaka Trench up here. It's a major player in plate accumulated stress. Doesn't take a whole lot of years. Doesn't take 100 years to build up enough strain for some larger scale activity, and that's been lacking up here for that movement. But as far as recent terms go, we're still watching up here around the northern end of the Java Trench northward across the Himalayas. It's been pretty quiet. If you look at this gap zone here, we should have seen, at least in the last 7 days, should have seen some activity. This goes back further than that. But also over here around the Mariana Trench is fairly quiet upstream activity. We did see some deeper movement, 4.3 here a couple days ago. No subsequent shallow or earthquake activity, and that's a little odd. Most of the time we do see some adjustment immediately upstream, but that doesn't look to be the case for now. All right, down into the Tonga area today, 4.9, 75 kilometers deep upstream. There's that deeper movement occurring. About 1 o'clock in the morning, some shallower surface activity following that upstream here. Kermadec Trench, New Zealand, that's another area that's in a quiet zone, so to speak, for now. See what we have on the GeoNet servers. Check them out real quick. And 4.0, goodness, so we got a 4.0 there. Was that showing up on the globe? Looks like a 3.9 was from the EMSC. That was a, looks like a felt report earthquake. A total felt reports of 1,735 people feeling that, mostly into the weak and light shaking. You can see it listed up there on the map. Some of the areas that felt it around that specific epicenter area. South Island, New Zealand. Looks like this was 10 kilometers northeast of the Christchurch area. Did you feel that out there, Timothy? All right, let's see. I'm sure that's going to show up pretty nicely on the earthquake drums here, mostly around South Island. That was, there's that 4-pointer right there. Pretty strong signature. Looks like it did show up right around this area, what, 4 hours ago, 4 or 5 hours or so. There's been a couple other smaller quakes within the vicinity of this area overnight, it looks like. Definitely continue to watch the New Zealand area. This is in, again, kind of a quiet area. Last 7 days, 4.5 and above. Last 30 days, still fairly quiet across this plate boundary. We did have one, if you want to discredit that, don't discredit it, but not count today's earthquake, that 4-pointer. We did have one 4.7 back in late March. But still, with all the movement taking place here up north, this has got to move here eventually, so I expect that to fill in that seismic gap here eventually. Out into the East Pacific, not a whole lot going on here. Atlantic. Let's hope the Atlantic's not down here on the southern end of the globe, right? A pole reversal, complete flip of the Earth, that would not be good. Let's see. Anything else going on out here that we need to know about? Seen that SpaceX rocket there kind of had a little failure following the liftoff there off the Texas area. Exploded way up into the atmosphere. Not good. I wouldn't call that a successful flight or launch. I mean, it launched obviously, but a little bit of errors going on there following the separation during the event there at the at that launch site. It'd be kind of cool to see eventually. Maybe one of these days. All right, let's see what else is there, folks. Far as earthquake activity goes, we checked out Yellowstone. Check out Earthquakes Canada here again. I don't think we've seen anything major going on there. There's the earthquake from yesterday that was reported by the USGS. Although this one a little bit larger, 4.5 compared to the 4.3 that the USGS is reporting. Either way, we'll check out the tremor tonight here on the update, see if that's been elevated once again, which I believe it is. Most of the time these tremors top out around 800 to 900 in a single day before dramatically dropping off. And they can last for a couple weeks or so. This one's into day 10 or so, day 11. Alrighty, so have a good day, folks. A real quick glance here at the weather today. I remember yesterday when we were doing the update, this looks similar, but over here to the west more, they only added the enhanced level for severe weather like an hour or two before everything started to blow up there into the Oklahoma, Kansas area, as far as that those thunderstorms, those supercells. But today it looks like they're sticking with the slight risk. Tornado potential a lot less than yesterday. I believe the dynamics are a lot less and a little bit more stable, but there's still a 5% chance up there, up into the Illinois area, Madison, Wisconsin included in that as well. But there's a pretty good line of storms that we'll see throughout the afternoon and evening. Hail threat looks to be somewhat moderate out here with the main area. It looks like around the Texas area in that hatch zone. All right, let's see. I think that's about it, folks. 73 degrees today here. Going to be an absolutely beautiful day. I may go out and do a little bit more work here on the yard, or in the field in the back, I should say. There's 4.5 coming in right now into the northwestern edge here of the Philippine Plate. But yeah, might go outside, get a little bit of sunshine and do some yard work, because tomorrow it's going to cook. We're going to be probably one of our warmest days of the year. I think we're supposed to be around 85 tomorrow, which is not bad. I'll take some of the warmer weather. It's been quite the winter out here in California, as I'm sure everyone knows, probably getting tired of it. People probably getting tired of the cold and the rain and the snow. Well, I prefer to have it rainy off and on all year, because I'm a big fan of the greenery and the just the moisture in general. But yeah, I think it's a little time we see some warmer weather. May even break out the poll here for the kids once it gets above 90. Take care, folks. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight. Have a good one.